never-before-seen footage of Sean Diddy Combs in the days leading up to his arrest in New York last September.
You want to put stuff in my fanny pack, King?
The exclusive video obtained by Netflix shows Combs debating with his lawyers about
something loud, sudden, and violent shatters the moment. But the real nightmare isn't a single act. It's the routine that follows, the normalization of chaos, and, according to what's emerging now, the unsettling reality that it could happen anywhere, even in places meant to feel safe, like while simply entertaining his kids.
Listen to me. I'm going to get off the phone right now, and I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution. No matter what nobody said. Let's just here and there, y'all are not working together the right way. We're losing.
The footage is part of a new, highly anticipated docuseries by director Alex Stapleton and rapper and executive producer Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, titled Sean Combs: The Reckoning. Was there anything that surprised you when you were watching?
I think it was surprising that he actually filmed it.
It was very interesting to watch a man who's known for his brand presence. You know, he has a really amazing knack for marketing and all of that, and how he was sort of taking that into account in how he was coming off to the public.
The exclusive video also shows Combs in Harlem greeting fans.
I'll accept it. I need some hand sanitizer. Hold on. I got it.
I've been out in the streets amongst the people. Yeah, I gotta take a bath. Like the amount of people that actually I'm coming in contact with, like that's what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? Oh. It's like 150 hugs.
You're a public person as well, and there was one instance in Harlem, and his reaction when those people
Went away.
Got in
his car and said, I feel like I need to wash, like I'm dirt. That was, it show you his character.
was that the reason for including it?
Yeah, I mean, and what's the odds that you would do that in front of the camera? Like that's one of the moments where he forgot he was on tape.
How do you respond to people who say that it's more about the disdain that you have for Sean Combs than it is for giving the victims a platform?
What they consider a pre-existing beef, right? For 20 years, right? It's me being uncomfortable with him suggesting that he takes me shopping, or I looked at it like it was like a tester. Like maybe you'll come play with me type of thing, right? And it's not personal.
I think it's important to also let people know that the show is not completely the perspectives of people that did not like Sean. We weren't trying to just get the highlights, the salacious details. You know, that the real goal was to storytell. And not everyone needed to have an allegation to be a part of this project.
The 4-part series also features 2 jurors from Combs' trial who were speaking for the first time about how they reached their mixed verdict, finding Combs guilty of 2 prostitution offenses, but clear of racketeering and sex trafficking charges, both sharing their thoughts on the relationship between Combs and singer Cassie. Juror 75 describing them as 2 people in love, and Juror 160 saying in part, domestic violence wasn't one of the charges. Cassie, is she a victim in all this?
I believe Cassie's a victim in all this because she came in as she's like 18, like 19 years old. In the very beginning, after a while, over time, conditioned for it.
The goal of what the film is trying to do is to let the audience kind of come in to ask questions like, were their decisions colored by certain things, and who got the benefit of the doubt, you know, in that courtroom?
Do you think that hip-hop culture was on trial as much as Sean Combs was?
Look, if I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as the hip-hop is fine with his behaviors.
The daily reality is far darker and more unsettling than anyone on the outside can truly grasp. Every day begins not with purpose or choice, but with abrupt interruption. Sleep doesn't end. It's cut off as lights snap on without warning and noise shreds the fragile rest that barely existed, forcing the body awake while the mind trails behind, already exhausted before anything begins. Time doesn't move forward, but drags sideways. Hours rigid, yet endless. Everything scheduled, yet nothing structured. As you wait to move, wait to eat, wait to exist, until the waiting itself gnaws at the brain, turning minutes into waits and seconds into constant reminders that control is gone. A routine described not as dramatic abuse or chaos, but as a quiet, relentless stripping of dignity and humanity.
This morning, never-before-seen footage of Sean Diddy Combs in the days leading up to his arrest in New York last September.
You want to put the stuff in my fanny pack, King?
The exclusive video obtained by Netflix shows Combs debating with his lawyers about strategy.
Listen to me. I'm going to get off the phone right now, and I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution. No matter what nobody said, let's just here and there, y'all are not working together the right way. We're losing.
The footage is part of a new, highly anticipated docuseries by director Alex Stapleton and rapper and executive producer Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, titled Sean Combs: The Reckoning. Was there anything that surprised you when you were watching?
I think it was surprising that he actually filmed it.
It was very interesting to watch a man who's known for his brand presence. You know, he has a really amazing knack for marketing and all of that, and how he was sort of taking that into account in how he was coming off to the public.
The exclusive video also shows Combs in Harlem greeting fans.
I'll accept it.
I need some hand sanitizer. Hold on.
I got it. I've been out in the streets amongst the people. Yeah, I gotta take a bath. Like the amount of people that actually I'm coming in contact with, like that's what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? Oh. It's like 150 hugs.
You're a public person as well, and there was one instance in Harlem, and his reaction when those people
Went away.
went
Got in
away.
his car and said, I feel like I need to wash. Like I'm dirty. That was, it should show you his character.
Was that the reason for including it?
Yeah. I mean, and what's the odds that you would do that in front of the camera? Like that's one of the moments where he forgot he was on tape.
How do you respond to people who say that it's more about the disdain that you have for Sean Combs than it is for giving the victims a platform?
What they consider a pre-existing beef, right? For 20 years, right? Is me being uncomfortable with him suggesting that he takes me shopping, or I looked at it like it was like a tester. Like maybe you'll come play with me type of thing, right? And it's not personal.
I think it's important to also let people know that the show is not completely the perspectives of people that did not like Sean. We weren't trying to just get the highlights, the salacious details. You know, that the real goal was to storytell. And not everyone needed to have an allegation to be a part of this project.
The 4-part series also features 2 jurors from Combs' trial who were speaking for the first time about how they reached their mixed verdict, finding Combs guilty of 2 prostitution offenses, but clear of racketeering and sex trafficking charges, both sharing their thoughts on the relationship between Combs and singer Cassie. Juror 75 describing them as 2 people in love, and Juror 160 saying in part, domestic violence wasn't one of the charges. Cassie, is she a victim in all this?
I believe Cassie's a victim in all this because she came in as she's like 18, like 19 years old in the very beginning. After a while, over time, conditioned for it.
The goal of what the film is trying to do is to let the audience kind of come in to ask questions like, were their decisions colored by certain things, and who got the benefit of the doubt, you know, in that courtroom?
Do you think that hip-hop culture was on trial as much as Sean Combs was?
Look, if I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as the hip-hop is fine with his behaviors. There's no one else being vocal. So you would look at it and just say...
Standing in lines that offer no explanation, following instructions that require no justification, and being watched during even the most basic acts, privacy disappears entirely, and that kind of constant exposure changes a person. Meals stop being meals and become mere fuel, handed out without care and consumed without pleasure, until taste no longer matters and hunger becomes something to manage rather than satisfy. And even while eating, there is no relaxation, only awareness of surroundings, of eyes, of posture, Because nothing is casual, movement is limited, but tension is not. Every step is measured, every glance calculated, the safest position becoming neutral, quiet, forgettable, where you don't draw attention, don't react, and don't respond unless necessary. Yet that relentless self-monitoring is exhausting, keeping the nervous system locked in survival mode as the body learns to stay tight. Because even when nothing happens, something could, and that possibility never leaves.
In the dirtiest of dirty business, we're losing.
Sean Diddy Combs, seen in what he's now calling stolen footage, getting dressed, greeting fans,
I need some hand sanitizer.
Yeah, I gotta take a bath.
and arguing with his lawyers 6 days before his arrest in New York last year.
Listen to me. I'm gonna get off the phone right now, and I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution.
Was there anything that surprised you when you were watching?
I think it was surprising that he actually filmed it. That's one of the moments where he forgot he was on tape.
Curtis 50 Cent Jackson at the helm of the 4-part docuseries Sean Combs' The Reckoning, coming to Netflix December 2nd. The longtime Diddy critic sitting down with Robin Roberts on Good Morning America Monday.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing. I think he's gonna say this is the best documentary I've seen in a long time.
Expect more never-before-seen moments, plus 2 jurors speaking out for the first time about how they reached their mixed verdict back in July.
It was a scary situation. You had, 12 people who hold the fate of your life.
As for Diddy, well, he's sharing his thoughts with E.T. from a New Jersey prison, where he's serving a 50-month sentence on prostitution-related charges. Through a spokesperson, he's calling the project a shameful hit piece that relied on stolen footage that was never authorized for release.
We have to find somebody that'll work with us that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business.
Diddy's team says Mr. Combs has been amassing footage since he was 19 to tell his story his own way. It's fundamentally unfair and illegal for Netflix to misappropriate that work. They add, it's equally staggering that Netflix handed creative control to a longtime adversary with a personal vendetta.
How do you respond to people who say that it's more about the disdain that you have for Sean Combs than it is for giving the victims a platform?
What they consider a pre-existing beef, right, for 20 years, right, is me being uncomfortable with him suggesting that he takes me shopping, or I looked at it like it was like a tester. Like, maybe you'll come play with me type of thing. And it's not personal. He knows the truth. I think he'll see the truth in it.
Yeah, I mean, 50 Cent, for many people, if it was ever, there was an anecdote that came out that someone had said, oh, I like guns, when talking about it back and forth, it might scare you. 50 Cent was at the Knicks-Pacers game in Indiana with a free Diddy t-shirt on, sitting courtside the next day. It's different. It was, yeah, it was different. I look back, and we aired a bit kind of leading into this interview, a clip from The Breakfast Club that was 2018, and Diddy was on the show, and they asked about the issues that he had with 50 Cent. He said, there's no issues, I love him, he loves me. He was kind of joking about it. And then you hear these stories that come out, whether it's this one specifically about 50 Cent, or just in general, the picture that's being painted by the government in this trial. For you, has kind of the image of Sean Combs and who you thought he was, has it changed during the course of what we've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Certainly You don't hear it clearly, but it's always there, a vibration running through everything as the environment itself feels hostile. Cold surfaces, hard edges, air that never feels fresh, light that's either too harsh or not enough, sounds that echo too long, and a silence that never fully arrives. According to accounts, a place designed to remind you that comfort isn't part of the deal. And alongside that physical strain comes the mental grind of the same walls, the same faces, the same routine. Repeated until days blur together, weeks lose meaning, and the mind turns backward because there's nowhere else to go. Old memories surfacing without permission, past choices replaying without mercy as regret grows louder with nothing left to distract from it, deepening the nightmare because there's no escape from yourself, no performance, no audience, no image to maintain, only raw thoughts stripped of filters. A forced reflection that isn't healthy or resolving but circular, unresolved, and endlessly repeating.
50 said, if you want to go nowhere, go to Diddy. If you're ready for your career to die, go to Diddy. It's long been rumored that Diddy didn't necessarily treat his artists properly, and if you look through his roster of artists, you'll see a lot of individuals whose careers probably started off really, really well, but they ended up with no money. That's long been the rumor. There've been rumors of abuse by Diddy toward Cassie and toward Kim and some other women as well. Even when he was at, I think, Uptown is where he originally started. So, there have always been rumors, but nothing really solidified and verified like we've had in this trial. It's been awful. I think it would be awful for anyone. I don't think his reputation is in the business world certainly will never recover. And even if he's found not guilty, his name is mud. I don't think that it's recoverable. I think everybody is extremely shocked. Especially just some of the sexually explicit things. We have a huge morality issue in America. So anything that's like a little deviant is just not going to be really good for you. So I think everybody's a little shocked. I'm a little shocked and appalled and horrified, and I think a lot of people are. But this is not what we knew. We knew some things weren't right, but we didn't know just how wrong they were.
And I feel like we just knew because we all grew up, whether it was, some of the roles he had in movies, and he was everywhere, and then his brands were everywhere. And it's like Making the Band was such like a hit show on MTV back in the day. And there's that famous scene where he has all the contestants walk to Brooklyn to go get, I think it was Junior's cheesecake. And he's yelling at people. And then it seemed like everyone around him in any documentary that he did, it was like, oh, that's just Puff because he's always just so angry. And then it's just this whole other level in the trial where it just, as an attorney, how effective has the government been, as you just read, and we can only read transcripts really and kind of hear from the people we have in the courtroom, but just at this point, how effective has the government been in painting the picture of this isn't just someone who's a domestic abuser, this isn't someone who was just a mean boss, but this was a racketeer who was running a criminal enterprise.
Yeah, and I think the forced labor issue. I think they've done an excellent job with that. With the transcripts I've been reading, a lot of the people are saying that they worked for 20 hours. Like that's the magic number, 20 hours straight. They, on a good day, we heard you'll get 4 hours of sleep. On a bad day, you'll get 4 hours of sleep. I think one of the what is it? A bodyguard said, if you sleep, you're getting fired. Like, it was more rhythmic than that. I don't know, but you couldn't sleep around him. And I think that's what we saw with Making the Band. But again, we really didn't believe it. We thought it was for entertainment purposes. We didn't think someone could really act like this. And if an employee gave any pushback, they would either be terminated or they'd be threatened with reputational damage. They would be threatened with being blackballed, or they actually would be blackballed. And I think that the government is doing an excellent job of proving forced labor.
And on that forced labor part, because on one hand, and I found it interesting, like George Kaplan, who is a former personal assistant for Diddy, like detailed all these, witnessing the abuse, he said, of Cassie, and then he was someone who would start work at 9:30 in the morning, and I think he said sometimes he went home at 7 o'clock in the morning the next day, and that's just what it was like, and he still...
Reports suggest visible changes in his behavior. Less movement, less expression, a guarded stillness that looks like calm but is really containment, where energy is conserved because wasting it feels dangerous, and even speaking becomes optional, with silence safer than saying too much or the wrong thing. Sleep never truly restores anything, remaining shallow and fractured as the body lies down while the mind stays alert, dreams bleeding into anxiety, and waking up feeling like falling back into the same loop, day after day of compounded sleep deprivation dulling reactions, slowing thought, and eroding patience, while hygiene becomes purely mechanical, cold water, limited time, no privacy, and the mirror, if there is one, reflects not who he was but someone adapting to an environment that doesn't care, all under a constant loss of autonomy, being told when to move and where to stay. A reality that felt especially heavy after watching all 4 episodes of the documentary, which revealed information not seen in prior accounts, including testimony from someone who co-founded Bad Boy Entertainment with him, echoing a theme prosecutors appear to be pushing, that this is someone who will do anything to get what he wants regardless of the damage to others, whether through alleged abuse, business disputes, or alleged sexual assault cited in civil lawsuits and in Burroughs' account. Allegations that he was forced out of his company's stake, faced homelessness, while Diddy prospered. Through music, fashion, and business in the 2000s and 2010s, and that Combs' name was intentionally kept off Bad Boy Entertainment's corporate structure to avoid liability tied to the early 1990s basketball game he organized, which resulted in multiple deaths and wrongful death lawsuits, an allegation that was particularly surprising and significant.
Along the lines of, he respects Diddy as this business person. In the eyes of the law and in this trial, what's the line between, well, this was a guy who just worked his employees really hard, to the point of where it was a forced labor issue where he was breaking the law?
So I think the perfect forced labor issue is, I think, Mia's testimony that we read through today. And, I think it's really easy for someone to say, well, hey, why don't you just leave? Well, one of the elements with forced labor is if you leave, you're threatened with reputational damage. You're threatened with being blackballed. You're threatened with psychological manipulation. So I think, that's a perfect example. With respect to Kaplan's testimony, I think what was so important is when he said toward the end of his testimony, I believe, that Diddy's call him a god amongst men. Well, how did he become a god amongst men? Did he use his enterprise? Did he use his influence? Did he use coercion? Did he use threats? Did he use violence to become a god amongst men? So I think, whereas a lot of people may think that was really flattering toward Diddy, I thought that was more damaging than anything because of what he did to become a god amongst men. Does that make sense to you?
No, it does. And that's an interesting way to look at it, because at the end of Kaplan's testimony, we did a show specifically, and I found it interesting because, really in the grand scheme of all the witnesses, George Kaplan's probably, by the end of this, someone that we may not even remember his name. But I just found it interesting where he was worked so hard. He was cleaning up the hotel rooms, and talked about all the baby oil and stuff that he was cleaning up in the hotel room. So you're just like, what kind of job is this? And then at the end, he's still like, yeah, it was almost, he was trying to be complimentary. But you look at that and you're like, the view that people had of Sean Combs within Bad Boy and Combs Enterprises, it was beyond, it felt like a boss, because there's still this, I need to give him a compliment at the end of the testimony. From the defense's side, they have tried to say, well, hey, Sean Combs, the video from 2016, yeah, it's bad. He was, this is domestic abuse. It's not a domestic abuse case. This is a racketeering, sex trafficking case. As a criminal defense attorney, to this point, how have they been doing in trying to score points for Sean Combs after some really difficult testimony that the government's putting forward?
I think they've been making some good objections. I think that they've been doing the best they can. I was shocked that they didn't cross-examine Cassie's mother, which I thought was extremely damaging testimony. But I think they're doing exactly, the best that they can with what they've got. I think that Diddy ran a campaign, or at least this is what the government is showing us, that he ran a campaign of psychological warfare. You can tell in the type of people that he hired. A lot of people have testified that if they left, they didn't have really many resources. They may not have had the parents or the spouse or the background to help them do other things within the industry. So, and I think he did that on purpose with his hiring practices. And, again, it was just a reign of terror and psychological warfare. I think the defense, they're just doing, the best they can. They're poking little holes in people's memories, which to me, it really doesn't matter. The fundamentals are what matters. If you can't remember whether somebody had on a yellow shirt or purple shoes, that doesn't matter. I care about the fundamentals.
He's always told how long to wait, and even the smallest choices disappear, a reversal that is psychologically crushing for someone once used to control, as the realization slowly sets in that nothing from the past offers protection here. Status doesn't translate. Influence doesn't matter. Everything resets to zero. And that truth hits harder than any physical condition because it confirms this place runs on its own rules, granting no special treatment for who you were, only for how well you comply. While the daily fear is not explosive but subtle, rooted in misreading a situation, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, looking the wrong way, or trusting the wrong silence. And according to reports, survival isn't about strength but awareness, an awareness that never shuts off, even during meals, which aren't moments of comfort but transactions, food arriving without care and disappearing without satisfaction, offering no warmth or enjoyment, only the bare necessity of keeping the body going.
But they're not doing a good job where it matters because they don't have anything with respect to where it matters, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And one thing, you talk about the objections, and I'm happy you brought that up because just reading through the transcripts, it seems like there's an objection. I remember in Deontay Nash's testimony, the celebrity stylist, it was like every single question, the defense was popping in and having something to say. Is that typical? Is this an above average amount of objections that you're seeing from the defense?
No, I think it's pretty normal. I think they've been strategic about it. I think they've been quiet when they need to be, and I think that they've been pretty vocal, where they need to be. So I don't think it's out of the ordinary.
Typically, when you object, and I'm always just fascinated by that because I think there's a big difference probably between what you see on Law and Order and the reason for objections in real life. What is the way a question, this is kind of just getting into the legal part of it, what is the way a question needs to be asked, and why would you object in certain cases where it seems like the prosecution's asking an open-ended question and then the defense steps in and objects?
Well, so a lot of the objections come from laying the foundation. So an example of laying foundation is if we know that, a drug is at issue. You don't want to say, when you saw such and such with the drug, what did you do with it? You want to first lay a foundation. Where did this item come from? Did you know what was in the item? And if they say, yes, I knew there were pills in it, I got them from such and such place. Okay, how did you know what these pills were made of, or, what impact they'd have on the body? I know what ecstasy looks like. This was my prescription that I passed to X, Y, and Z. You just have to lay a foundation. And sometimes if you're not laying a foundation, you're going to get an objection.
And then just finally, as we're still on the front end of this trial, and it's incredible to think that the prosecution still has a couple more weeks to go with everything we've heard thus far. When it comes to the racketeering, they've made the argument that he was responsible for the arson of Kid Cudi's car. We've heard multiple people like Capricorn Clark say that she was kidnapped by Sean Combs. Has the government, to this point, how close are they, in your opinion, to kind of reaching the bar that they need to on these charges?
I really think they've reached it. I think they've reached it with sex trafficking. I think they've reached it with forced labor. I think, who knows with respect to the arson, but I think they've reached it already, and I think it's going to be important in their closing for them to, those little games we used to play when we were kids, draw the line, connect the dots. They're just going to have to connect the dots and be very succinct about it in their closing. And I think that's why they're shutting down early, and they're going to cut a few witnesses from what I've heard, because you don't need them. You don't want to overwhelm your jury. And I think it's just, bring it home in the closing. That's what they have to do. I don't think that there's really not much the defense can do. I think that, they're going to talk about how he's just a bad guy. He does bad things, but this doesn't rise to RICO. And I just don't see how they're going to win with that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's been a very, very interesting is an interesting word to use for it, because there's just been so much.
You stay aware and guarded, eating with your eyes open and your posture tight, as the environment itself feels hostile. Hard surfaces everywhere, cold air that never settles, lights that are either too bright or not bright enough, sounds that echo and linger, and a silence that never feels safe. So even when nothing is happening, the space feels charged, as if waiting for something to go wrong, where movement is limited but tension isn't. Every step feels observed, every motion evaluated, making the safest approach to become unnoticeable by not drawing attention, not reacting, not standing out, until existing quietly becomes a survival skill. Yet that constant self-control takes a toll as the body remains tense. The mind stays alert even during moments that should be neutral. The nervous system never shuts off, and a low-level awareness hums in the background, scanning for changes, reading the room, calculating risk. While sleep fails to fix anything, rest stays shallow. And although the body lies down, the mind never fully follows.